Yep. Yep. It's about that time that we talk about the Killington Ultra. The Killington Ultra. All right. Before I get started, I want to just dedicate this video out to people that are looking to run the Killington Spartan Ultra next year. This past year just happened, but anybody that is thinking about running it next year, people that have run ultras before that might be running this one now. More so specifically for people in the open runs, because like if you're placing high in age group or elite, then you know what you're doing. I ran it in an open this year, so I just wanted to give this video feedback, or I want to give feedback in this video to those people that were or that are in the position I was in before I ran this race. So I wanted to dedicate this video out to them. Before I get started, I wanted to throw a big shout out to Megan Beck, aka the OCR trainer. She has been absolutely instrumental in terms of my success in the OCR world, specifically with Spartan races. I met her online after I posted on a Facebook post after I came back from my trifecta weekend in Montana. Ran the trifecta weekend there, did the Beast Saturday, and then the Sprint and Super on Sunday over there. I wanted to give a big shout out to her because she responded right away, and she gave me a lot of consultation advice, on how to train, how to properly diet for race day, which I'll get into later in the video. So again, she's just been instrumental in my progress and my success so far up into this point. So I just want to give a big shout out to her. So a little bit about me. I just spilled a little bit right there in terms of like the Montana experience, but so a little bit about me. I have run now, like this Killington Spartan Ultra is my 6th race. Before that, I ran the Sprint and the Super in New Hampshire, also called the New England, because it was supposed to be in Massachusetts, but it got postponed because of COVID, so they moved it to New Hampshire. So I ran the New Hampshire Sprint and Super, and then I did the whole trifecta weekend in Montana. So my very first Spartan race was the Montana Beast, which honestly, it was great for me to gain that experience early on, because that Spartan Beast, I will say, was no joke. It was it was brutal, and that was my first taste of elevation. Elevation gain. So it was a wonderful experience, for that, and it definitely helped, prepare me, to understand how my body feels or will feel, going into an ultra. So that's a little bit about my experience. So yeah, this Spartan Ultra again was my 6th race, so my 2nd trifecta this year. So that's a very, very good achievement. So yeah, all right, let's get started. So first thing I want to talk about is the course. This course is, I will be full on honest with you, and I will not sugarcoat anything. This course is brutal. It is absolutely the most brutal thing I have ever experienced, like athletically and physically. I will say visually it's brutal too, not just in how daunting it is itself, but also even what you're seeing while you're racing. Like I can't tell you how many people I saw cramping up. I saw their muscles locking up. Some people were just full on shutting down. Especially Oh my God. Especially after the Tarzan swing. Oh my God. Like it was absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. But yeah, no, it was literally a war zone out there. Like that's honestly the best way I can describe it. Um, the course was 30 and a half miles. Um, had 60 plus obstacles. Had 14,000 plus elevation gain. And to put that into perspective, 14,000 plus, that is literally halfway up Mount Everest. Just to provide some perspective. Um, Again, it is very, very brutal, and it's pretty tough. It's pretty tough, to say the least. Um, yeah. All right. So let's get started with basic preparation for any of you Killington potential ultra newbies. I'll say definitely do a lot of preliminary research. Like, scavenge whatever information you can find online, in videos, YouTube videos, Facebook posts. Like, there's a Northeast Spartans Facebook group as well as a Spartan Ultra group that I personally am a part of. That I found a lot of information through. I'd say just, research the hell out of it. Just try to dig up as much as you can about it. Just so you can kind of get a baseline of, what you're going to get yourself into. That'd be like the first thing. And then secondly, just talk to people. Communication is definitely key. Like, message people, DM people, reach out in some way and to just try to pick their brain, like people that have run it, people that, are planning on running it, seeing how they're, preparing for it, just being able to take stuff from different people to be able to, put it all together in your own way, to be able to feel confident that you're preparing yourself in the best way you can for this race, and honestly, that was my approach. Like, I can't tell you how many people I've DM'd and messaged, like, asking about, like, their experience at the Spartan Ultra, or the Killington Ultra specifically. Asking people that have run it before, like people that are in elites, people that are in age group, even people that like people that have done it before and open. Like, I was, DMing them. I also even DM people and even talk to people, like, in person that I train with that have done the Killington Beast before. Just so I could get an idea of what the course will look like, when I get there. Because, like, understanding how it is in the form of the Beast really will help, give you a visualization as a potential ultra runner, because the ultra is 2 loops. But sometimes the ultra loop will be on the first loop. Sometimes it'll be on the second. Sometimes they'll have, like, both, but they'll shorten it up. Like, so, I mean, Missy usually, like, she changes it every year, so it's hard really to predict. But the ultra is 2 laps of the Beast and the ultra loop. So if you understand, like, how the Beast is, you can kind of get a picture of what to expect for the ultra. So again, I just literally was just talking to people all the time and just trying to pick their brains and take stuff that they're doing, to kind of just, paint a picture of what to expect in my head, and also even just to figure out a strategy of how to prepare myself. And the next thing I'd say in terms of basic preparation is race day attire. It is basic preparation, but so important. I come from a background, I come from a basketball background. Like, I played basketball in college. I just graduated from college about 2 years ago, or a little over 2 years ago. So, I come from a basketball background, so I have a lot of basketball shorts, and literally up until the Killington Ultra, I wore basketball shorts. But then Megan got on me about it, and told me, like, you can't wear basketball shorts because when they get wet, they will get heavy and they will weigh you down. And honestly, it was a small detail, but it made a huge difference come to Killington Ultra because, I'm not saying I was flying like a bird, but like they were drying off very fast. Like the pants that I was wearing during the race dried off very fast, and they were very lightweight. I mean, yeah, I have them right here. Like this is what I wore this past weekend when I did the Killington Ultra. Very, 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 very lightweight, and they, dry off very, very quickly. And these saw me through, and honestly, I couldn't have asked for better shorts. Like they were very comfortable, good mobility out of them. Like they were great. And honestly, again, shout out to Megan for recommending the attire change because it was definitely much needed for me to be able to complete this race. Now, complex preparation. So for this, we got nutrition and training. The first thing I'm going to hit on is nutrition. Now, I'm going to kind of talk about what I do. Now, nutrition there's no one size fits all when it comes to nutrition. Everybody has to kind of feel themselves out when it comes to nutrition. Like for me, what worked was noon tablets, like before the race to get electrolytes in me, and then I'd have liquid IV along with the noon tablets just to get some instant hydration in me. But I'd also carry a liquid IV pack in my on my belt as well, just so I can keep a consistent level of hydration as much as I can throughout the race. And then I'd also have Honey Stinger Energy Chews, which were electrolyte chews. Those made a huge difference for me. And actually, speaking of Honey Stinger, the Killington Ultra, they actually had the cinnamon waffles, the Honey Stinger waffles, out for us ultra racers to take, and even some beasters that were there. And honestly, like, I'm very, very grateful because it saved me from using some of my resources while racing, so I'm very, very grateful for that. But that's just, again, what worked for me. You kind of have to figure out nutrition on your own because, as I say, every body is different. Like everybody's body is different, and it reacts different ways, and different substances and different formulas affect people in different ways. So I'd highly suggest just figuring out, like, from a nutritional perspective, what works out for you, definitely sooner rather than later. I mean, for me, I'll admit, I was late to the party. Like, I literally figured out what worked for me from a nutrition perspective 3 weeks before this Killington Ultra. Granted, I did commit to it a little bit late. Like, I committed to doing this Ultra in July. So I only had really 2 months to train for it. But so I was a little late figuring it out, but thankfully I did. But you all now have a bunch of time. Like, you all have pretty much a whole year, or even more to be able to prepare for it. So I definitely suggest preparing for it sooner rather than later. That's my advice around nutrition. I'd say, like, for during the race. But definitely it's important to keep, a healthy diet even in general. Just don't eat junk. That's really it. Just don't eat junk. Try to eat, get some healthy fruits in there, some vegetables. Make sure, definitely keeping hydrated, get fluids in you, water in you. But yeah, just don't eat junk. Should be fine. Next point I want to hit on is training. in terms of complex preparation. Um, Honestly, I will admit I don't feel like I trained enough for this race. Although I did complete it, I don't feel like the training that I did going into this race was enough. Um, like for me, I was doing hill runs, hill carries, like rec bag carries up hills, running Harvard stadiums. Um, Again, and just running trails a lot, doing hill runs, and then I was doing like upper body and core work in my gym. Like the upper body and the core work that I was doing is perfect. Like that was fine. Like it wasn't my upper body that was a problem. Of course, it was my legs. I really like next year when I run the Killington Ultra, or even in like maybe not next year because I honestly just want to run a lot of ultras in different locations. So I don't know. I might do Tahoe next year. I might do New Jersey next year. I don't know. But I definitely will be running the Killington Ultra again in the future in age group. So I can compete with it definitely. This was my sixth race and my first Spartan Ultra, so I wanted to do it in open because I didn't want to have the pressure of competing. I only wanted the pressure to meet the time cutoffs and to finish this time around. But I will definitely be more competitive with it in the future. But in terms of training, back to the point of training, time on feet is definitely essential. And I don't feel like I had enough of that. I will say my feet, speaking of my feet were hurting like all throughout the second lap, or the second ultra loop at Killington. I don't feel like I had enough time with my feet. And that's, part of the reason why I say, the training that I did, like all the stuff I did, don't get me wrong, it helped. Like it put me to a level where it was just enough to get by, but I definitely don't feel like I trained adequately enough, even though I was able to do it. Like it's kind of like I didn't really totally live up to the standard I would have liked. So but that's just me personally. But in general, like time on your feet is definitely essential. But I just also wanted to share some of the stuff that I did to train going into it as well. Because, who knows? Again, every body is different. So, some of the stuff might work for you. Some of it might not. But, I just wanted to just, reveal all the information that I have in regards to it. And then in terms of advice and recommendations, I would say the week of, definitely have a taper plan in place. Like in terms of how you're going to go about giving your body the rest it needs, but at the same time keeping it loose. Like I will say the way that I felt comfortable about doing it, I'd say pretty much not take the whole week off, but have a little bit of a run in the middle, like Wednesday or Thursday. So for example, what I did was I ran a hard 10 miles on Saturday. Then that Sunday I did sandbag and rec carries up the hills. And then Monday, I did a really, really, really light lift. I dropped my weight significantly. Tuesday, I rested. Wednesday, another light lift. Dropped weight again. And then Thursday, I ran 1.25 miles, just to keep it moving, keep it loose, because you don't want it to get stiff. And then for me, I'm from the Boston area here, so it was a 3-hour car ride to Killington, and the last thing I would want is for it to get stiff. So I honestly just kept it loose a little bit by like running that mile and a half on Thursday. But it was very, very light, very, very low speed. It was honestly more of like a kind of like a trot than a run. But again, it served its purpose because it kept my hip loose, my legs moving, that's kind of what I did in terms of like my tapering. And then of course Friday is just travel day. I just travel. But also I was stretching every day too, like making sure the muscles, felt good. Foam rolling a lot. Just doing stuff to take care of my body, but at the same time making sure that, from a physical standpoint, I'm doing what I need to do from a training perspective to put myself in the best position to be successful. And then another thing that I'd advise is definitely, I'd say now, like there's always that one person that can surprise you, and just do things crazy, but like my advice would be before attempting, I mean, even an ultra in general, but especially the Killington Ultra, like do a beast first, any beast, and it can be any beast anywhere. Like just do a beast first. That way you know how your body feels in a long distance Spartan race. That way you can understand, and have some perspective on what you will get yourself into, what you will face in a Spartan Ultra, or even potentially a Killington Ultra. That's my advice, is to do a beast first so you can understand that. Because I'm telling you, the elevation gains and the sustained elevation gains are absolutely crazy. Your legs, are gonna be shot, absolutely shot. I mean, just speaking for the Killington course, Killington Ultra, we had to go straight up K1, which was probably about 1,700 feet we gained in like a mile and a half, like up K1. Then we had to go straight down. Then we had to go up Bear Mountain with a sandbag carry, and then come back down. And then at around mile 12, I'm gonna coin the term Death March number 2, because honestly, I will say that hill was worse than the Death March and Bear Mountain. Like, it wasn't as high as either of them, I don't think, but it was just so steep that, like, literally, like, I saw people crawling it. I'll admit, even I tried to crawl it. I couldn't, because I was every single time I tried to crawl, I would cramp, so I couldn't crawl it. It's just, it was just crazy, like, but again, like, that's the type, like, that's what I'm talking about in terms of, like, the sustained elevation gain, like, it literally doesn't stop. Like, it is nonstop, and it just keeps going. It's like, literally, you're either going up, you're going down, or you're going through an obstacle. Literally. Like, it's one of the three things. Like, there's, like, very, very few times that you're going to be just running flat, like, or even slightly up or slightly, downward. Like, it's just so brutal in that sense. So that's why, I suggest doing the beast. And I'd say more advice that I have is, like, train on technical terrain, especially for Killington. Killington is so technical. Being in the Boston area, I trained at the Blue Hills reservation, down South Shore area. It's not as steep. It's nowhere near as steep as Killington, but it is so technical in terms of, like, there's so many rocks. So it's like sometimes you got to be able to, move side to side and, choose your steps very, very quickly. And I will say my experience in technical terrain really, really helped me at Killington, because, while well, most people, like even some fellow ultras that I was running with, like, I passed a lot of them just because, I could go downhill, or go down like technical terrain very, like, faster than them because I had practiced it like every weekend at the Blue Hills. And just me, like, the Blue Hills got me so prepared that when I got to Killington, it was all about just choosing my steps, like choosing what rocks to land on, how to shift my body and, understand like how to control my body to be able to, bounce off and create momentum into the next step. And then just picture where your feet go, like 2-3 steps ahead. That's what, training on technical terrain, really that's how it really helped me in that race. And again, I made up a good amount of time, in that race because of it. And speaking of time, another important aspect of Spartan Ultras is the time cutoffs. You have to know where to be at what time, because they do not play with these cutoffs, because it's the reason why they have these cutoffs is because they don't want to be chasing around people in the dark, and they don't want to have to account for racers, late at night, because it can get dangerous. So that's why they have these time cutoffs, to whittle down that number. Speaking for the Killington Ultra, the time cutoffs were 2 o'clock. You had to be through the first loop. Then it was 5 o'clock. You had to be past the beamer, or the bender. Excuse me, not the beamer, the bender. And then 6:30, you had to be past the spearman. And at 9 o'clock, that's when the course is closing. Yeah, if you haven't finished by then, you're pulled from the course. So pretty much, like, again, you have to understand where you have to be and at what time, so you can, try your best to formulate a pace plan to be able to reach each of these cutoffs. Like, speaking from my experience personally, like, I made the first cutoff with 45 minutes to spare. I got there at 1:15, and the cutoff was at 2. So literally what I did was I spent about 5 minutes, like, just eating my sandwich and my drop in, and then refueling, getting some electrolytes in me. And oh yeah, that brings me to another point. Two things to not do in transition. Do not sit, because let me tell you, you sit, you are practically done. Like, because your body goes into recovery mode, and it is very, 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 very hard to get out. Very, very hard to get out. Like, it is literally like the place of doom, practically. And then the other thing is, minimize the time you spend in transition. Max 10 minutes. Absolute max 10 minutes. Like, and I mean max 10 minutes, because you are going to need any spare time you get from your first lap on your second lap, because your legs are going to be shot, you're going to be tired, you're going to need those extra minutes on the second lap. 1 and 2, again, you don't want to stay stationary for too long, because then your body just starts settling, and again, like I said, you don't want your body going into recovery mode. So 2 pieces of advice when you're in the drop area is, do not sit, and do not take more than 10 minutes max. 10 minutes max. Like, I think I spent around 8 or 9 minutes. And again, even I think that was too much, like, even I think that was a little long. But again, max 10 minutes, like absolute max. Be in and out, organize it in a way that you can just, get in, get to stuff, pull stuff, eat stuff, get out. Handle your business and get out. And yeah, no, like, organize. And again, like speaking of drop bin, like make sure you have your headlamp in there. Make sure you got hydration in there. Make sure you have electrolytes in there and just some solid base food. Because when you're out on the race for like anywhere from like 5 to 6 hours, like you are literally like eating chews. You're between chews, water, goo, whatever you decide to use. You're just like eating the same thing constantly. So it's like your body, is eventually going to get tired of it. So that's why I'm saying like solid food and transition will definitely help. Even some candy. Like some people were throwing candy in there in order to replenish sugars, which, okay, like whatever floats your boat, and whatever you feel comfortable with, like, hey, like you're running a Spartan Ultra, especially the Killington Ultra, like you are going to be in some dark places. So if you can have any ray of light, that gives you hope and anything to make you smile, do it by any means. That brings me to my next point. Dark places. You will at some point like be in a very, very dark place. Like this race is long, it is tough, it is gritty, it is ugly. Like you are going to be in a dark place at some point. Like I'll talk about mine. So my dark place was on the second loop of the Ultra in Killington. So they had us going up, starting out 2 hills. One hill, then we plateaued for like a small, tiny part of it, and then we went up another hill, the second hill. About a third of the way up on the second hill, that's when my body just started locking and cramping, and I literally couldn't even move. Like I was in a really, really, really dark place. So I had made it out of transition fine and stuff like that, but I got a third of the way up that hill, and I literally couldn't even move, and it was just absolutely brutal. And I'm not gonna lie, like I literally did feel broken. Like I literally felt like my body couldn't move another step. And honestly, a guy named Brian Sherman and then Pete Sylvan, like Pete Sylvan's a guy I train with. Like big shout out to both of them. Like Brian and Pete, honestly, they are the reason that I am here today with a medal and a belt buckle because of them. Because, Pete, I train with him, in the Blue Hills every weekend. We get up, we carry the rec bags, and then we go on our runs. And then, so I've just so much respect for him. And then, Brian came in and loaned me his hiking sticks, to help me get up that second hill, just to take a little bit of pressure off of my knees, and my legs. So I was using the hiking sticks to get up the hill, and it really, really did make all the difference, because it gave my legs just enough time to be able to recuperate and recover for me to get up that hill. And then Brian, for a good part of that second loop, he was loaded, absolutely loaded with nutrition. Like that was like because of him, I actually tried Tailwind for the first time. Like I had never tried Tailwind before, but Tailwind literally changed the game. Like literally after I had a bunch of Tailwind and Liquid IV, I mixed the two together. I literally felt like I had a new body because, at that point, the cramps started going away. I started feeling more normal again. And, when I started feeling more normal, that's when, I just felt a lot better. And I felt like, I had my swagger back that I had in the first lap. And then I started to actually move. I started to actually get, more of my first loop pace back, albeit the first loop was significantly longer, but I felt like, it was a new race. Like I literally went from, oh my God, I'm about to quit because I literally can't go, to like, all right, now let's do this. You know what I mean? Like, and, I just, said, like, there's a small chance that this gets done. Like, there's a small chance we can complete the Killington Ultra, and like, because I just felt like a new man, and I really did feel like that. And, again, big shout out to Brian and Pete, because I wouldn't, I wouldn't be in the position I am to tell you about my experience, without them. And this metal belt buckle, like this, it has my name attached to it, but this is just as much their metal as my metal, because without them, this wouldn't be possible, So I wanted to give a big shout out to Brian and Pete. And if you're watching this, big shout out to you all. Thank you all so much. Like, I really legitimately couldn't have done it without you all. And yeah, no, like, again, like, speaking of the dark place, like there is a point where you're just gonna have to just fight. You're just gonna have to fight. You really, really are. Like, as I heard a quote when I was younger, you can't be pretty boy Roy, the whole way through. Like, it's going to get gritty, it's going to get ugly, it's going to get dark, it's going to get tough. Like, you have to find, the intestinal fortitude to just plug through and keep going. You really, really do. Just keep moving step by step. Just put one foot in front of the other. Like, literally just step by step, and just keep marching. And you will eventually get there, Like, there is a point where it just becomes will over skill. Like, especially, I'll admit it, like, as I went along, in the course, my technique was, I'd say my technique through the first half of the first loop was really, really good. But the second half of the first loop, my techniques were, like, it was just really, I would say it was poor, like, it was poor. I, like, a lot of obstacles I was just getting by just because I was strong enough, or I was tall enough to be able, and I have long enough arms to be able to do it. But my technique was absolutely awful, and not good. But, thankfully I do have, like, good physical attributes to be able to, take me the rest of the way when my body is, aching and tired, and, but yeah, no, like, at some point, as I say, will over skill. Like, you gotta be, it's gotta be ingrained up here, for the body to engage, like, it's just got to be will over skill, and you just got to plug through it. Like, I'm just gonna keep that raw and uncut. You just have to plug through it. But again, keep moving forward, and just don't stop. Just don't stop. Try not to stop. Count your steps. Like, if you need to take a break, like, count your steps, break. Take some breaths, and then just keep plugging. Just keep grinding. And again, like that's all my advice for, people looking to do, Spartan Ultra. This video is more catered to people doing the Killington Ultra, but even Spartan Ultras in general. It's just a long grind fest, literally. Long grind fest, war of attrition, literally. It's just, it's an unbelievable experience. Very, very painful, but it's unbelievable, and it's fun, and it is very rewarding when you get the medal and the belt buckle and the shirt, and the bling bling and the swag. Like, you get all of that, if you finish, so, and again, I want it, like, as a member of the Spartan community, like, a lot of people wanted to see me succeed, during the race. Like, even people that knew they were not going to finish, were giving me their gels, their goo, their energy chews, their tailwind. Like, they were giving me stuff to help me finish, even though they knew that they weren't going to finish. So again, it just shows you how together the Spartan community is. And, and I'm honestly going to say, shout out to all the racers that didn't finish the Spartan Killington Ultra this past weekend, that gave me some of their nutrition to help me finish, because I couldn't have done it without you all either. So big shout out to you all. And, and again, as a member of that community, I want to be able to give back, and contribute, my piece of, the Spartan contribution to potentially new Spartans and um, new potential Killington Ultra finishers, because I want to see as many people with this belt buckle and this medal as I can, and honestly, if this video helps one more person achieve this, to me, I've reached my goal, so, I couldn't be happier if that were to happen. But, if you have any questions, if you all want to talk about anything, if you want to, explore something deeper, about the race and stuff like that, and more information, drop it in the comments. I will be actively checking this so that I can, respond to as many people as possible, because I want to be able to help as many people as possible. So, definitely fire away. But yeah, no, I just want to see as many people successful, especially with this, Killington Ultra is the most brutal. It's the most brutal Spartan race in the United States. Like, it is the most brutal Spartan race in the country. And honestly, that should be the death race, in my opinion. But yeah, no, like, I want to help as many people achieve this as possible because, again, before I ran it this weekend, I was, in your same position, looking up videos, trying to talk to people, find out as much information as I can so that I could, kill Killington. Yeah. But, yeah, no, definitely fire away in the comments, if you have any questions or want to know any additional information, and I'm happy to, discuss. But, again, I want to see as many people with these as possible. So, with that, I'm going to say #KillKillington and aroo, aroo, aroo. Let's get it.